Hello again, Nicole Mashburn, and so now we're going to finish up nervous and muscle tissue. So these are our last two types of tissues that we're going to study for this unit. So let's start with our muscle tissues. So when we talk about muscle, we're going to do a whole lot more detail about this in a later unit, but I just want to review that we have three types of muscle. We have skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle. Now, the function of muscle is to move something. So skeletal muscle moves bone, cardiac muscle, it moves blood. That's what makes up the heart. The heart pumps, it moves blood. And then smooth muscle moves things through tubes. So think your digestive system. Skeletal muscle is voluntary. That means you have the control over it. So you decide when to contract your skeletal muscle to move your bones. You don't have to think about beating your heart. You don't have to think about moving food through your digestive system. So only skeletal is voluntary. And again, we'll do more about this later on in a different unit. All right, so we're going to have the same format we've used in the past with these pictures. So this is skeletal muscle. And skeletal muscles are long, cylindrical multinucleate cells. So if you think about a muscle, this is a muscle in your arm. If you could separate out that muscle and look at the individual cells, you would see that the cells run the entire length of the muscle. So here are our muscle cells. This is what we're looking at. Okay, and skeletal muscle is always striated. You're going to see these stripes in it. Okay, and we'll talk about what those stripes are later on, but right now just know that they have these stripes. They have a lot of nuclei. And we use these for voluntary movement, for locomotion, to move, to walk, to manipulate our environment. And not only does skeletal muscle move bone, but it also moves skin. So when you smile, the muscles attached to the bone in your skeleton, but also to your skin, so that when it contracts, it allows you to smile and frown and grimace and make your facial expressions. Again, so the location of your skeletal muscle is going to be somewhere in your body attached to a bone or to the skin. Okay. Your cardiac muscle looks very similar to skeletal muscle. This is the muscle that makes the heart wall, okay, that you find in your heart. And they're long muscle cells as well, but they have branches, and these branches help these muscles go in this round shape of the heart. It also lets electrical activity travel through the heart as a unit at one time. We'll talk more about that later on as well. But the cardiac muscle also has stripes. But again, instead of being parallel muscle cells, you have these branched muscle cells. And you also have these things called intercalated discs that kind of stand out at you. These are specialized junctions that are important in the electrical activity of the heart. Again, more detail about that as we move into the heart in the second semester. The function is to move the blood. So as the heart contracts, it propels blood through the arteries. Okay, it's involuntary. So you're going to find these muscles, this muscle tissue, in the wall of the heart. And then lastly, you have smooth muscle. And smooth muscles are not long cells like the heart and the skeletal muscle. They're more spindle shaped. They don't have stripes, and they're arranged more like sheets. Okay, so you'll see they don't have those stripes. They're just more, almost a little bit more irregular looking than the skeletal and the cardiac muscle. And their job is to move things through tubes, like food through the digestive system, urine, a baby. So you can move things through these tubes. Again, these are involuntary. So anywhere that you've got a hollow organ, you're going to find these types of muscles along those walls. Okay, that's smooth muscle. Now the last type of tissue is your nervous tissue. Again, more details later. We have a whole unit on the nervous system. So this type of tissue is what makes up the brain, the spinal cord, and your nerves. And nervous tissue includes not only neurons, which are the main type of cell that makes up nervous tissue, but also things called glial cells or support cells. So nervous tissue will have neurons, which are nervous tissue cells, and then glial cells as support cells. And again, we'll talk about that more in detail later. So again, same format, nervous tissue, the description. This is a neuron, okay? And these are all this yellow stuff. These are the supporting cells. And neurons are large cells. They can be quite long. They can extend from your spinal cord all the way down to your little toe. They are branched. They have these long processes. So if you were to look at a cartoon, this would be your cell body with your nucleus. It's got a receiving end where information comes into the cell and then it sends the information out this direction. Again, we'll talk about that in more detail later. But their function is to transmit electrical signals. So this is the way our nervous system works. We transmit electricity through our nervous system, and that goes out to your muscles and your glands and causes things to occur. Maybe it causes a muscle to contract or a gland to secrete something. Okay, and we find nervous tissue in our brain, our spinal cord, and our nerves. All right, that wraps up the different types of tissues, and I will see you again in the next video. Thank you for your attention.